Andy, good morning.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very good.
Glad we could talk a little bit.
Yeah, I heard you were at the Code for America event last night, so I was curious to know how it went. Anyway,
Indeed, it was great. So we had kind of a joint event with Health 2.0 Sacramento, as well as the local code for Sacramento brigade, and really it was kind of a review, if you will, or a kind of a look back at the Developer Challenge, the recent codeathon that
uh-huh.
you and the California Healthcare Foundation sponsored. And I think it was a fantastic event, a lot of good discussion, and a lot of great applications that came out of it using the California Health and Human Services open data.
Yep. Well, it's funny. I find that in a weekend's worth of coding, it's probably not practical to expect someone to have completed an app or visualization that's ready to launch at the end of the weekend and it's like ready to go. And I often think that's perhaps not or shouldn't be the aim. Part of it, of course, I think is to just bring together, coders with government, so that they can learn from you, so you can learn from them. But I think also it gives us collectively some ideas for directions we can go. Like I think of that, and I've mentioned this before. I think of that LED map of California. Personally, I never would have thought of doing a physical cutout map of California that's piped into the data portal as a way to express data, visually. But I thought, well, that's got some potential there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Actually, that team, Rocket Department, shared that presentation last night, and I was very impressed. And it was a very innovative, very clever way to represent data, coming out of CHHS. So we were excited about that. I got to share a few remarks, and to your point, we talked about the benefits to really both kind of state government and the community in terms of this interface, this collaboration, where we focus in Health and Human Services on publishing open data, and then through these kinds of engagements, in local communities, codeathons that you sponsored, and roundtables, et cetera, we're able to really collaborate in ways that we likely wouldn't have prior. So it is a great opportunity for both of us, and we sort of shared and rallied around that concept last night.
Yep. One of the other ideas, there were many, but one of the other ideas I thought was interesting coming out of the Codathon, there were two entries that related to commenting about data. So one was a Let's Get Healthy application. And the idea is that community members and others can comment perhaps to their local elected officials about the data and share concerns. And I thought that was an intriguing development, this idea that you could, post a datagram, so to speak, to a local elected official or whomever it might be, based on data that you see and that you're getting from the portal.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, those are the kinds of ideas that just we never would have thought of. I think
Yeah.
similarly, we were delighted to see the application on essentially reading metadata from the portal on a daily basis and tweeting out changes. From our perspective, that's an ideal solution in terms of communicating out with consumers of CHHS data on what's new, if you will. So again, another kind of more interactive piece, and leveraging social media to kind of communicate what's happening around CHHS data.
Yeah, because I think that one struck me as that it hits a need. I mean, any government's capacity to do outreach is understandably limited, and so automating that somehow, and using leveraging tools like Twitter, or it could be email, or who knows what, has, I think, a lot of strong potential. So I was really glad to see that.
Exactly, exactly. And again, I mean, that was the theme of the evening, and certainly these events is just that. We have capacity to focus on administering health and human services programs, and the fact that we can publish openly in open formats those data that we collect and use along the way, to just make them available for these kinds of uses, is just an ideal collaboration for the both of us. Again, you're right. We wouldn't have the capacity to do those things. We wouldn't have the capacity to perhaps do the outreach, but by leveraging and collaborating with these kinds of community efforts, it really is a great win for both state government, but the communities that we serve.
And when you look at like the winning app, with the one that leveraged data from WIC, I mean, it brings to mind the point that I've heard you guys make often, which is that, I mean, arguably you could, and perhaps, arguably should, create easy to use tools that allow people to access, consumers to access data like that. But the point that I hear you guys make is that it would take you a lot longer to bring something like that to market. And the fact that, actually we've seen it in two cases now, that there's been two WIC apps created that are really, consumer-oriented, very easy to use, and most importantly, were created very quickly, I think speaks to a need that I'm sure is out there, meaning something that you can't quickly do on your own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to your earlier point, I mean, the next steps out of this, is to connect that developer challenge winner that built the local WIC kind of resources app. It's already published out on Google Play. Connect those folks with the local Sacramento Health Department and see what kind of synergy, if you will. I mean, what kind of collaboration can be made there. To where the app sort of may be handed off, and again, something that likely would have taken government a lengthy amount of time was developed in a weekend, and now could be made handed off to the county for the benefit of local citizens here in Sacramento. I shouldn't forget. We also had CoDeveloper Challenges in Fresno and Los Angeles, right? Hack for Health. Don't want to forget those important events as well under the kind of the sponsorship of the California Healthcare Foundation.
Well, that's true. The one in LA was actually the biggest one nationally. Of all the events taking place across the country, Excellent. The one in LA was the biggest. And it's part, I think, of our broader goals here. We set about to see how we could get local take-up with data that the state's publishing. And we figured we would try and do that, and this is a learning experiment for all of us. We figured we'd try and do that by having local data ambassadors who could be on the ground working with the communities. And it's those ambassadors in each of our communities, Sacramento, Fresno, and LA, the ones that we targeted, they're the ones that have really been ramping this up. And it's really wonderful to see something like this taking shape in Fresno, where it didn't really have a sort of civic hacking community. And we're now sort of helping to build that. And they had a bunch of teams that submitted some ideas and concepts, and they were working all night on their proposals, and really, really interesting to see that. It's a community with so much need, so I was really glad to see that.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're equally excited. And here we are, less than a year in to the work on the Health and Human Services Open Data Portal. And seeing this kind of activity at the local community level, again, really spurred through the ambassador program, is just really rewarding, and we're appreciative of all the efforts. And on our end, Andy, we're just going to keep on publishing to the portal. We've got 5 departments now publishing open data to that portal, and we're working with the remaining 7 under the umbrella of Health and Human Services here in California. We expect to have them all aboard by the end of the year, and just really look forward to more of these kinds of local engagements to see this problem solving and local issues being addressed with data that we're publishing here at the California Health and Human Services Agency. So thanks again for the sponsorship. We look forward to more of these kinds of events in the future.